Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this heart-to-heart conversation. This is a presentation in the Freedom Summit series, Out of the Darkness into the Light. I'm your host, Victoria Hart, and today we're talking with Jim Self. Now, Jim walks with a foot in two worlds. He holds technology patents and is the founder of Biomed Diagnostics Corporation. He has served as a two-term elected official and vice mayor of San Jose, California, and was appointed by the President of the United States to be the Director of Intergovernmental Operations for the United States Department of Energy. Jim is also an intuitive, clairvoyant teacher, speaker, author, and international leader in the field of spiritual development, and co-founder of a course in Mastering Alchemy with Roxanne Burnett. Mastering Alchemy offers tools, enhanced personal energy management skills, as well as the ability to remember how to step out of the third dimensional game board and into the fifth dimensional experience of well-being. And it's a course that I've been playing in for almost 10 years now, so I'm really excited to see where our conversation will take us today. Jim, it's my delight to welcome you today.
Oh, Victoria, my pleasure. It's delightful to be with you, as always.
Thank you. So we're dealing with a world currently in a lot of transition, and many people are feeling a lot of discomfort as we navigate the challenges of these accelerating and disruptive changes in the world. And certainly over the past few years, it's become more apparent as we witness old ways of living just kind of fall away. I could kind of describe it, or it could be described as experiencing life as a sleepwalker who has been walking kind of bleary-eyed and is suddenly just startled awake to what's happening. So, Jim, let's talk a little bit more about this third dimensional board game that we just mentioned, that we've been playing in for many years, and the significance to shifting into a different vibrational space, or the fifth dimension.
Yeah. So the third dimension, the place that we walk around in, the place that we live, basically has rules and structures to it. And we don't pay attention to those because we're usually never called to need to pay attention. But in the game of the third dimension, you have a number of things: good, bad, dualities, right, wrong, should, shouldn't. Third dimension is very conditional. There is nothing in the third dimension that's unconditional, and I'll make that make sense in a minute. And one of the structures of the third dimension that nobody challenges, they just take it for granted, is linear time. You know, past, present, future, and then you die, and that's how it is. If you asked 100 people, 98 of them would tell you, yes, that's all there is. But this whole game is really built in layers. And it's like anything else, you make things where you just make assumptions, and then you go on and live your life. And then all of a sudden somebody says something, you look into it a little bit more, and there's a whole nother layer of awareness, understanding that begins to be presented. And for the last pretty much our generation, or our period of time, our last 50, 60, 70 years, there has not been a lot of demand to pay attention. And then all of a sudden, we have this exponential experience going on where everything is going faster and faster and faster. People are swearing time is going faster.
Yeah.
It is. But what is really happening is we're moving from one layer of consciousness to another layer of consciousness. And because of things like technology, over the course of that last 80, 100 years, it starts out small and slow, and you kind of get used to it. You know, people throw rocks at things like electricity and agricultural harvesters, and they basically say, you know, it's all bad stuff. And then it absorbs into the system. And we're now at a point where what used to take 50 years, and then it took 30 years, and it took 20 years, and then the cell phone, for example, you know, and well, that's just a phone, and all of a sudden it's not just a phone, the internet. Now everything's right in your face instantaneously. And so one of the things that's happening is underneath this all, it's a shift in consciousness. And we're moving from what I just defined as that third dimensional world into a fifth dimensional world. And in that fifth dimensional world, the rules and structures are really very different. In this fifth dimensional world, basically fear, mistrust, domination, imposition, greed, competition simply don't exist. Now, it takes a lot to get your head around it. And people say, oh, do you mean I have to die in order to go to that world? Well, actually, you don't have to die to go to that world. It's a matter of shifting your attention and your sense of understanding. And what we do very much is we see something, we have a thought about it, we create a belief about it, then we start to believe the belief, and then it begins to be unconscious in our habit. And so in a way, you've got thoughts and emotions that simply begin to bind up. And when I'm living in fear and competition, I am constantly trying to pay attention, am I okay? And so much of that third dimensional world is really structured in a way we've been taught, we've been brought up by the mom, dad, teacher, minister to believe that in order to be okay, I have to go to them out there to tell me I'm okay. And that really doesn't work well for a lot of people, because as we come into this lifetime, we're full of excitement and creation and imagination. And then all of a sudden, the mom, dad, teacher, minister starts saying, no, don't, you can't. This is what we do. We don't go here. We do go there. We talk to them. We don't talk to them. And what happens to each of us as an individual, it shuts down our imagination. It shuts down our creativity. It shuts down our joy, because we step into a box that's not my box. I start to live life as I was told. It's not as exciting. And then I have to depend on them to tell me I'm okay. And so that's the third dimensional world. And you're watching that begin to shatter, to begin to break up as we get more involved in social media, not making that good or bad for the moment, but it's in your face. There's no big lag time between when somebody says something and how it comes together. So we're in this shifting, but consciousness is moving us into this fifth dimension of well-being. And in well-being, it's simply, I like you and you like me, and I don't doubt you, and I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so that's a big shift, though, for people listening to this, to say, you mean I just begin to be well-being and I'm okay? Yes. Well, that's not possible. And they'll argue and argue and argue. And it's understandable, because it's the nature of the game we've been playing.
Yeah, sure. And certainly as I've been playing and mastering alchemy, and noticing the patterns of behaviors that I had kind of inherited or that had been passed through the generations. And like you say, you know, you'd get the response from perhaps your parents say, oh, well, it's always been this way. And I remember saying, well, it doesn't really work. It doesn't suit me. Isn't it time to change it? And just kind of blank looks as if, you know, to question me my suggestion that could be the case. And so, you know, why, you did touch on it earlier, why is it important then to really be starting to pay attention to our actions and choices as we shift in this changing world? Because otherwise, really, we're kind of just recreating the same patterns that have been going on for centuries, decades, a long time.
Sure. So one of the things, if I said to you, who are you? That question very seldom gets answered, because I don't know who I am. I'm a combination of everybody else's wantings and directions and doings. And so where we play in Mastering Alchemy, and where this whole shift is going, is the question, who are you? Not some really deep question, but pretty simple. And one of the things that people know is that you have something called space, your space, we call it quite often. And you also know that quite often when somebody steps too close to you, you have to step back. So what is that? How does that work? So when you start to begin to recognize the who are you on a heart level, on a bigger level, and you begin to get some information, this energy field that we call an aura is really a tremendous field of your information. And one of the things that happens, it's not very well protected. Now, what I mean by that is we are constantly influenced by the moods of other people around us or their ups and their downs. And so we get moved around and we really don't get to the point that says, well, who am I in a very comfortable way? Comfortable would be I'm present, I'm quiet, and I'm aware. Now, if we just define that for the moment in that context, well, how do you get there? And one of the things that happens is that energy field at the edge of your energy, or I should say at the edge of your energy field, there's a simple tool, simple concept that if you were to put your hand directly out in front of you and turn it, the palm of your hand towards you, that's approximately where your aura starts. And if you would create a concept, and we use a rose just as a concept here, if you had a mental image picture of a rose and you put it on the edge of your aura and you decided that everything from the rose to my heart is me, and everything on the other side is Shakespeare's theater to entertain me, would that be a concept that would be different than how you live your life? Now, and the answer is yes. But when you start to recognize and you pull your energy back, you begin to become present. You get out of that, I'm worrying about my past and I hope my future doesn't bite me in the butt type of past, future, past, future. You begin to be right here. Once you're in that space, you begin to decide that an awful lot of what I do has no value to me at all. Means I'm just kind of playing the game I was told to play. And it's really right there you start to begin to define yourself energetically in a way that you become grounded, you find the center of your head, you're being able to breathe, and you're being able to discern. So when somebody says you have to do this and you just go on automatic and do it in the past, you're able to begin to say no or yes, or that's not mine. And I'm going to say probably 90% of what goes on in your life has zero to do with you. But we listen to the politics. Do we listen to the media? Do we listen to everything? Do we have opinions? Do we throw energy? That's very noisy. And where this shift is going into a place where you start to step back and realize I'm playing somebody else's game to a great extent. And so what is my game? And we talk about that in a second. But as you begin to discern, this is me and this is my space, then I can build a platform that starts to be as I would like to live my life. And that's a big shift because you start to move into the heart versus the rational mind. In the heart, you begin to find words like gracious and kind and happy and laughter and joy versus some of the things you've been playing with, anger, rage, resentment. So if you kind of go, which one feels better? Now you're in a place where you can ground it and begin to build a platform to live from that space.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly for me, I think last year it was more about really starting to look at, well, who am I not? And still shedding a lot of the conditioning and the programming and recognizing that. And I did feel the energies were still quite turbulent as I went through the year. And I feel like this year is going to be more about finding more about my unique expression and then showing up in that expression. And
yes,
as you were saying, when we're looking at what's going on around us, that's creating these, it can trigger us. But as soon as we just step back from that and start to be in our space, then we are starting to tap into really who we are and what brings us that joy.
Yeah. So let's talk about that triggering because there's something very tangible to that. So this will sound odd to a lot of people, but thoughts are electrical, emotions are magnetic. Now, what I mean by that is you have a thought and there's a charge to it. Well, I don't like this, somebody says, and there's a charge to it. And then I'm angry at you has an emotion to it. And so what happens is that thought and that emotion form this electromagnetic field. And so you know what you feel like when you're angry, depressed, confused, not appreciated. And you know what you feel like when you are happy and enjoying yourself. And so what happens quite often is it is very mechanical spirituality. So you're walking along and you're in your spiritual space. You're happy, you're pleasant, you're enjoying yourself, and you're in ease.
Mhm.
And then somebody says to you, you have a funny nose. Now I'm making this up. And all of a sudden, what happens? You go, oh, wait a minute. And you drop from your spiritual space to your mental space and you say, oh, this can't be good. And then you immediately, so you go into a state now of big hyphen ease. I'm off balance. But you immediately go into the emotional body that says, oh, this doesn't feel good. What did I do? What did I do? And so it's this hyphen gets a lot smaller in ease. And now I'm thinking and I'm feeling uncomfortable and I'm trying to make up a story. And what happens is people get into that space quite often because other people have opinions, or you're not doing it right. You need to do it this way. You're not okay. You don't deserve. You're never going to be worth anything. You're stupid. Nobody's ever going to like you. And so there's that electromagnetic field that gets created and we withdraw. And then we don't like this and we're walking around with it. And so we kind of make a deal with it. We say, look, I'm just going to put you over here in this little box of denial.
Right.
And so it's gone. But what really we kind of still keep. And so we say, okay, wait, I'll make you a deal. If you don't come out and bite me in the butt, I'm going to put you back here in this backpack and everything's going to be fine. And what we do is we make that decision and then we consciously forget we made that decision. But the thing about those thoughts and emotions and the thing about spirituality is there's this thing called the law of attraction. And the law of attraction, everybody says, oh, I know about the law of attraction. Not really. Law of attraction is so simple, it's hard to fully understand. What it says is, what you put your attention on, I, the universe who adore you, and will not second guess you because you're the creator being, I will provide for you. That's simple. What happens is, this is where affirmations for a lot of people break down. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good 100 times. But what's the last affirmation? Usually is, but. And the universe stops. And so what happens is you are putting on a good face, but something back here doesn't feel right. And so the law of attraction doesn't understand English and French and Spanish very well. What it understands is vibrations. So here's that electromagnetic field of vibration. And do I give more attention to what I'm afraid of and I don't want? I'm hoping it doesn't jump out and bite me. Or do I give a lot of attention into well-being and joy and ease and flow? And the answer is I have an unconscious pattern that I'm always worrying about, even though it's not conscious to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and as you were speaking, I was reminded that we talk a lot about, well, everything comes to you. So is that in that context, like
Yeah.
how can one attract more positive experiences in their life? And also when we've been sort of taught that we have to push and shove and manipulate to get things to come to us.
Right. But this backpack is very much like the crucible, the bowl, the cup. And it's full of, I'm uncertain, I'm afraid, they don't like me, I'm worried about, why did they say that? I hope it doesn't happen to me in my future. And so you got a lot of noise in your backpack, in the cup, in the crucible. So what happens is people don't know how to move around that. Now, they go to therapy and they talk it out quite often. But in real terms, I didn't like it in the first place. I don't really want to go explore it again.
Mm.
And so you spend a lot of money and you spend a lot of time in therapy. There are tools and there's a different concept. What if there was another story to how to run your life than the story that the mom, dad, teacher, minister provided you? And so when you start to allow yourself to consider there's another story, there's a platform. On that platform, it's a platform of well-being. It's a platform of present time. I'm allowed to observe through my rows and make a decision. Do I participate or don't I participate, rather than the reactionary nature of, oh, I hope they don't find out. So it's not complicated. It's just a different process, a different story, a different aspect to where you are valuable. You have importance. You are significant. You are big. You came here with a purpose. And one of the things that a lot of people are feeling right now is they're anxious because all of this shift that's happening is simply pushing everything out of your backpack.
Mm.
It's very easy. You can't take your baggage with you on this journey. And so we are on this journey. We are going into that fifth dimensional state of well-being, and we're doing it fairly quickly. Now, is everybody going to go on this journey at the same time? Absolutely not. One of the reasons you're seeing so much noise and anger and resentment and energy being thrown, authoritative nature coming in, I have to control it, I have to stop them from this, is because all that noise is coming out of everybody's backpack and it's coming to the surface. It's threatening my status quo. It's threatening my belief system. It's threatening how I know everything I know, and I don't know what to do, so I better gather up my tribe and hunker down and basically keep them over there so I'm okay. That's not working real well. And so, but it's all coming to the surface. So for those of you listening in where we play, Mastering Alchemy, it's what if you could recognize that you can clear that out of the backpack. You have a set of tools that simply allow you to recognize, when I apply this concept, I'm not as stressed and not as fearful and not as scared as I was. And not only applying the concept, it's gone. You just recognize that has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so you begin to move it off the table. And pretty soon things that used to bother you, they don't bother you very much. And so you start to build a different story from a set of structural concepts, considerations, thoughts. How would I like to live my life? And so again, I'll go back and say, which feels better? Anger, rage, resentment, confusion, happy, enthusiasm, patience, allowing. There's another word here where it's allowing and permission.
Mm.
See, two things were taken away from us in the mom, dad, teacher, minister story: imagination and permission. Really big words, big energies. You have and always have had permission. It's not something that's given to you. It's something that your sovereign right is, I have permission. Now, does that mean you can just go throw energy, do anything you want? No, there's a space of respect and dignity and kind of kindness in that place. Sometimes you have to step back and allow people to be in their cathartic confusion. And then sometimes you can reach out and help. But it's a managed point of observation, present time, and awareness that allow you to live your life differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were talking, of course, one of the things that I found confusing, certainly in the earlier days, is being able to distinguish, well, what is my feeling and what is an external energy coming in. So how can people distinguish that? What tools can we offer to help them recognize that?
Sure, great question. So what is mine and what is not mine? And so one of the things I watch, it doesn't get answered for many people, is the question, what is an emotion and what is a feeling? And they're kind of confusing. They should be the same thing, but why are they two different words? So this is not a pure truth, but if you would consider Emotions have edges. They're angry, rage, resentment, disappointment, etc. There's an edginess to that. Feelings from the heart, grace, kindness, respect, dignity, laughter, joy, appreciation, no edges. Now, that's not a pure truth, but if you use it as a reference point, where am I in relationship to where I would want to be? If I've got edginess in my space, I'm probably off balance. If I am moving towards a place where it's like, yes, this is really great, you're probably in the heart space. Now, people don't recognize that the heart thinks. It's not just the rational mind. The rational mind is an interesting invention. I'll kind of leave it right there, though. And what it does, it has a job. We've given it responsibility to make sure that stuff in my backpack doesn't come out and bite me. And so you say to the rational mind, you have to protect me from this. So the rational mind is constantly moving through society. And what happens is that person over there is angry and that person over there is happy and that one's sad. And so you got all these different vibrations of emotions going on around you. And in the process of that, you're trying to tell the rational mind to protect you from this. And there's one other piece to this, the second chakra. And so I'm going to make an assumption people know about chakras. There's a little machine, if you'd call it that, a sonar machine in the second chakra. And what it does, it sends out a little pulse and it asks a very specific question. What is that feeling? Its job is to basically, within a range of energy, determine what's going on in and around you. And so it sends out that pulse and it comes back and it says mad, glad, sad, angry. Mm-hmm. But growing up, and many of you are very empathetic, many of you are very sensitive to the world around you. And you were as a kid, and it's a great skill set, but here's the but, is when I grew up and I was excited and I was told no and stop and don't and what's wrong with you, you're never going to succeed. All of a sudden, I got very uncomfortable. And so I changed the question. What is that feeling to what is that feeling about me? Really big change. The machine works fine. Now that person over there who's angry, mad, upset is upset at me. And now I'm feeling all that energy, not as perceiving it, where the world is and how do I navigate it? How do I perceive it about me? And so many of you that are listening, I say this very kindly, you're hiders. You simply have pulled back, you avoid, you step back. I don't want to go over there because something happened like that. And there's a guy with a blue shirt and my dad had a blue shirt and I don't like my dad. And can you hear the illogic logic? And the rational mind's job is to sort it all out and keep you safe and protect you. Pretty challenging job. When you begin to play the different story, you start to have your own sense of identity, this platform of words. I begin to live from joy, ease. In that space, I discern. My rose, basically, you just build it in a way that says, it's not a protection, it's not a keep out. It just is a point of delineation. And you allow all that's not you to stay on that other side of the rose. Now, it just takes a little bit of shift in understanding, not some big, deep 200 hours of work. It takes a second. It's not hard. It's a shift in understanding. But if you play with it and you walk around, it's like go to the grocery store with your rose up and talk to the checker, the person, they don't care what you're saying. It's like, oh yeah, the weather was good today. Stay on your side of the rows and just talk. Nice dress you have on. How are you doing today? And what happens is you realize I'm here and they're over there. And pretty soon, staying on your side of the rows, an awful lot of that energy that said you're not okay, danger, watch out for, no longer really exists because you're not having big red flags up saying danger, danger. And so that all begins to drop away, no therapy required. You start to find that I live on this different platform. And then it begins to build from there. And it's an amazing journey into a space that's available to everybody. And it's partly the reason you're all here is to build that living light body. Now, mostly that's an intellectual concept, even to the people who are trying to do it, because it's not intellectual. It's an energetic field of light that you configure. It's beginning to play in the upper chakras, eighth chakra, ninth chakra, all available to you, but nobody's ever told you you could play there.
No.
And so, go ahead.
No, disagreeing, but please carry on.
Yeah. So, is there a way of beginning to recognize I have choices and opportunities and strategies and enhance my abilities just by beginning to get more present in your space? Now, the change is happening all around you. And on one hand, if you give attention to the world around you, you are not going to like what's happening because it's lighting up all of the stuff in your backpack and your fear levels and your worry levels. And as odd as this will sound, everybody on the planet has a puzzle piece and they're playing out their puzzle piece. And hard to hear when you're looking at Gaza, and you're looking at Ukraine, and you're looking at Somalia, and you're looking at a lot of these places, and it's just wrenchingly painful to watch what people are going through. But somewhere in that journey, every single person has a puzzle piece, and they're working on it. And it doesn't mean that's their plight in life and that's their puzzle piece, but it's that level of where they reach out and they assist somebody in this lifetime and they never did that before, or they're able to basically recognize different directions to go. So that puzzle piece only begins to be really understood, though, conscious, when you're able to step back, take a breath, be in present time, and allow that to be noise and this to be me.
Yeah, beautifully said. And as you were speaking, I mean, I was smiling because I've definitely been a hider, and even showing up for this summit, it's pushing me, expanding me to step out a bit more. And I have noticed, a little bit of that, I guess the self-doubt, judgment popping up for me, but it's just been in my awareness. And because of the tools, I can kind of smile inwardly and go, okay, I see you, but we're going to carry on anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd
And
like
let me just talk to that for a second. It's an interesting place because what is the likelihood of me yelling at you, abusing you, embarrassing you in this conversation? It's like zero. You know that, and I know that. And yet what we do, I'm talking to everybody, is we have this little doubt. But what if you could live your life in like a circumstance like this, where you could basically recognize I'm allowing that not to be in my field of energy, that doubt. And I have a tool to basically move that doubt off the table because I just am recognize it. I'm not burying it. I'm becoming conscious I have this doubt. But what if you had a tool that said, I can move this away, take a breath, and then be successful? And at the end of this, you can say, hey, good job. I didn't get yelled at and I made a discerning decision and I was correct.
Yeah.
That's the space where this other story, this other platform begins to allow success in ways where we were terrified of failure previously. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. And just off the back of that then, because I would like to bring to our awareness, the consequence, what are the potential consequences if we're not really paying attention and taking responsibility for our actions and choices?
Well, it's just go outside and stand on the street. I mean, I'm being simple. Do what you've always done. And you're going to find that you will always get what you've always got. And so if you are a person who is concerned about the world, and causing you challenge, your own fears, your own hesitations, your own doubts, your own self-judgments, your own backpack, if that's driving your life, then you're going to get more of the same. Law of attraction. But if you start to recognize, and this is why tools, strategies, concepts of a new story allow people to choose differently, because they've never been given those things. They've been there for a long time, a lot of it. But once you start to basically make a set of new decisions, you alter how the rational mind relates to the backpack. And all of a sudden you realize, and one of the pieces that is always fascinating because people hear this difference, it is impossible to be not okay. It's absolutely impossible to be not okay. We work really hard at being not okay. It's like wearing shoes that are too small and two different colored pants and shirts and a really funny hat. And then you wonder why everybody's looking at you this way. It's impossible to not be okay, but we work hard at it. Once you get into this quiet, present, and aware space and begin to recognize that an awful lot of what I'm fearful of has nothing to do with me,
Right.
first, it all falls away. I mean, a massive amount, it all falls away. It's like taking a deep breath. But if you just begin to recognize it's impossible to be not okay, it's impossible. So what am I doing that's causing me not to live in okay? And there's easy answers to that and easy solutions to that situation.
Well, I've noticed myself, it's kind of like what we were saying earlier, it's those old unconscious patterns of behavior that keep showing up that we're not shining a light on. So as soon as we start shining a light on it and allowing it to come up, we can say, well, hang on, that wasn't me. I learned that from someone else, or that doesn't feel good, and start to, put it to one side. And then we start to become more aware as it shows up until it diminishes, because once we see it, enough times, we don't have to play in that anymore.
Right. And what you find is, there's another piece of it. How many times have something is going to happen in 2 weeks and you spend 2 weeks worrying about it, and you get to the 2-week point and it didn't happen? And so where were you that entire time? Now, present time is really a big deal, because what we do is we live in the past and we worry about the future, among other things. But the only time you exist is in present time. And in present time, you can set a future present time moment in motion, but you can't live in that future moment and worry about whether it's going to happen, because that moment doesn't exist. So what you're doing is worrying in the present moment. Oh, it's not going to be there. The hotel's not going to be there. The plane's not going to be on time. The beach is going to be rainy that day. Boy, that wears you out.
Right.
What do I wish to happen? Law of attraction. And you sit there and say, I'm wishing this is going to be a very nice trip, and it's going to be a wonderful vacation. And it's going to be a great beach, and I'm going to meet interesting people. You hold your attention on that vibrational thought, you're going to go over there and have a great time on your vacation. Are there going to be little interruptions, possibly because of what's still in the backpack? Yeah, but it's like, no, I'm okay. This is a great trip. And somehow or another, it takes care of itself. But it's that lingering, like, oh, see, I told you everything was going to be a disaster. The universe goes, no problem. Happy to help you out again.
Yeah, because the universe loves us.
That's right. That's right.
Actually, I've created some great things by having that shift in mindset, just from simple things like a parking space right out front of the store, or, and when you just play with the little things, and you can play with bigger things.
Yes, yes. But spirituality is very mechanical. It's not all love and joy and peace and harmony. Yes, and it's very mechanical. So one of the things, this piece of information, is masculine and feminine energy are really, really the nature of the game of creativity. And what I mean by that is, we're not talking about male bodies, female bodies, or men are from Mars, women are from Venus, psychological. Understanding that feminine energy is the first impulse of the Holy Spirit. Feminine energy. The Holy Spirit is that aspect of the creator that's all about creation. That's where creation comes from, the womb of the feminine aspect of the Holy Spirit. And feminine energy has swirls and curves and motion to it, whereas masculine energy has straight lines and angles. And so the feminine says, how would it be possible? There's no edges. And the masculine says, I can build that. I can make that happen. It could look like this. We'll paint it this color. We'll make it this size. Structure. When you start to recognize you are both masculine and feminine, and when you hold those thoughts, this can't happen, or that's not okay, very masculine application to the energy field that's feminine and in motion. No, we can't do that. It's got to be this way. And you start creating all these constructs that prevent ease and well-being. And so when you start to understand, and like mastering alchemy is all about, this is a journey. It's not a 2-weekend certificate on your wall. It's a journey. And it begins to allow you to choose differently. Try this. What happens? In that process, that backpack starts to fall away, because all of a sudden, what I've been holding on to is somebody else's truth that has nothing to do with me. And more often than not, it's in past time. So when you start to ask yourself, is this in present time? It begins to be something where you realize, well, no, it's what my mom told me when I was in 3rd grade. The next thing you do is kind of right in present time. Does what my mom told me in 3rd grade have anything to do with my life right now? And the minute you say, no, it doesn't, and you're congruent with it, gone. It simply has no longer that electromagnetic binding. It begins to be, oh, this has no value to me. And it dissipates. Very mechanical, very straightforward, not complex. The only question is, can you allow yourself to believe there's another story that is your story that you haven't had a chance to really play in as yet in many ways?
Mm. Yeah, and exciting. And so I think this is a nice kind of segue into, because we're moving through the equinox season, which is the balance of dark and light. We talked about the masculine and feminine. We talked about shining a light in our dark backpack. So what are the significance of the energies that we're moving through at the moment?
Yeah, this equinox is going to be very interesting into everything we just said, because this equinox, it doesn't happen on the equinox. The equinox is the point where the Earth is closest to or balanced in, or solstice farthest away. So what we do is kind of look at it. Where are we in this moment of time in this energetic level? And this equinox is going to be very interesting. I'm going to use the word shattering, hear it really softly. It's going to simply create cracks in everything that's breaking. And it's going to basically bring about a clarity that you can't keep doing what you've been doing. Now, if you're arguing for your limitations, it's going to be an uncomfortable place going forward, and many people are going to do it. If you live in fear and you're trying to recreate your status quo pre-COVID-19, 2020, get over it, because it's not coming back what was. So this shattering is, on one hand, just breaking up the game. On the really positive side, it's bringing so much light in, and it's bringing a feminine creative opportunity. So there's flow and other choices that are going to be made available. You're going to start to see the black and white, 3rd dimension, push and shove, right and wrong. You're not starting, you're seeing it. It's just not working. Right. You can't hold these rigid, political positions on the right and the left, or in your general life. They don't work anymore. And so you're going to start to see 1 and 1 equals 3. 3, take things to the higher road. You're going to begin to see alternatives, choices, possibilities that were never thought before, or are so blatantly obvious but it didn't support one side or the other side. And you're going to see both sides come together for the only logical choice there is, which is generally the one that's been staring them in the face forever. So it's going to be disruptive on one hand. If you as a spiritual person are in this alignment of well-being, you are also going to begin to see choices that you've never considered before. New choices, new opportunities. Back in the solstice period of time in the end of 2023, there was an opening, and we said it in this way, it's like an opening of timelines. It's this huge opening, and there's many other timelines. Now, as soon as I say timelines, take that out of your vocabulary, because that's a label. And so we love labels. That means X. So once you make it an X, it can't be a Y or a Z. And so take the timeline away and recognize this huge array of light is coming into your awareness and is stimulating eighth chakra, stimulating the heart. There's an aspect that many people don't recognize. It's called the Eye of Horus. Now, not a mystery school, maybe it was. It's not a necklace around your neck. It is the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, the sixth and seventh chakra, the eighth chakra, and it coalesces all of your psychic spiritual abilities. Now, psychic abilities, let's call them spiritual abilities. Your clairvoyance, clairaudience, transmediumship, narrowband, broadband, telepathy. There's about 16, 18 of those spiritual abilities. You were born with them, and you got told, stop that. Don't do that. Stop making up stories. That didn't happen the way you said it happened. Stop. And so we turned off a lot of those abilities or put them aside. That Eye of Horus is where all of those abilities coalesce into knowingness. It's not that you see something or hear something. It's just that in that quiet, present, aware platform, and you're breathing and you're right here, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know how to do this. Just comes to you. There's no effort in it. As Victoria said, as you said a little while, everything comes to you. And see, when you stop waiting for them to tell you it's okay and you get present, everything comes to you. It's a wonderful find.
Yeah. Yeah. Exciting, because then we're really becoming the creators of our stories, our reality. And I'm just going to switch gears a little bit, because we have touched on it a few times about the political disruption that we've been seeing unfold. And of course, in your introduction, you did have a past version of yourself exploring a political career. So I'm curious, what was the pivotal moment in your life that got you to where you are today? And then how do you reflect on that choice?
I can tell you, and it's so I was on the 24 years old. I was elected to the San Jose, California City Council. That was when San Jose, for 10 consecutive years, had 35,000 people moving into the town. Massive growth, and it's what Silicon Valley is today, in that part of the California. And so 24 years old, hot stuff. And so I was on the city council, and then got elected again and decided I was going to run for mayor and would have won. So that's not an egotistical statement, just would have won. And it got to the point where you had to actually file papers to do this. And the closer it came, my third chakra. So just to talk about, third chakra is about power, control, judgment, and resistance. If your third chakra right in your solar plexus hurts, ask yourself, what am I pushing against? What's pushing against me? What am I trying to control, etc.? Well, that began to hurt mega lot, really a lot. And I would get closer to it. And I'm now collecting money, and everybody knows I'm running for mayor, and everybody's excited about it, at least the people that liked me. And the closer I got, the more painful it got. And I knew I was living a lie. I was living a lie, that going and doing this was not in my best interest. And it got to the point where it was literally a day before filing the papers. And I had a administrative assistant, a brilliant guy, and he came in and he said, I quit. It's like, whoa, what do you mean you quit? He said, well, you're changing. You're starting to talk to the developers a little differently, and you're beginning to hedge some of these positions we have. And I'm not going to be around for that. And I realized it was my saving grace. And I said, no, you can't quit. I quit. And we structured a stupid argument. I mean, a presentation. Well, I'm quitting because, like politicians say, well, it's because of my health. And it's a lot of baloney. I said it for, well, I'm like the mayor and the mayor's like me and kumbaya. Oh, gosh. And it was black and white. My spiritual life turned on, my political life turned off.
Wow.
And it has been on ever since. Absolutely true story.
Yeah, fascinating. And
Yeah.
I guess if we were to put it in the context of the theme of the summit, that was kind of you exploring in this darkness. Maybe, I don't know how you got into that path in the first place. And then you found the light, which lightened your load as well as you traveled more on the spiritual path.
Yeah. And in a way, I'm wishing, this will sound sound harsh to somebody, but I'm wishing that on you. I'm wishing that on all of you. I'm wishing that you get to the point where you simply say, this is not the life that I came here to live.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to step into this fifth dimensional well-being and begin to balance myself and allow myself to be okay. And that's really the point of all this is you can't be not okay. We work really hard at being not okay.
Mm.
And so this is where this is all changing right now. And everybody's going to feel that at some level going into this next period of time because it's going to exaggerate a lot. And it's basically, am I doing what my heart wants me to do? And if the answer is no, you're going to feel it in your third chakra. It's like, I'm not doing this right. And you're going to get upset about it with yourself because your truth is staring you in the face and your actions are being listened to by the backpack and the rational mind.
Yeah.
There are tools, there are concepts, there are skills. There's basically another story sitting right over here that is so much more in alignment, not complicated and explainable. It's not something like, well, you need to meditate in the cave and you get it. No, those days are gone. You did that once. Now it's time to begin to recognize you're big, you're significant, you're important, and it's your time to be here. And this is the moment to basically recognize who you are. It's an exciting time in that space, as this vastness opens up. Whoa, I mean, beauty in a way you've never seen beauty. Concepts of well-being, feeling sensations that you've never felt before are simply flowing into this alignment right now. So on one hand, something's breaking down. On the other hand, everything's being built up. It's an amazing time we were playing in.
Absolutely. And one of the things I noticed when I was in a different story of my life as well, and kind of had been led to believe that, you have to work hard for things to happen. So I was pushing and shoving and doing all the time. And as soon as I kind of switched lanes and became somebody different or just stopped doing all of that because it was exhausting. Yes. And actually shifted as well from just being, and as you were talking earlier about getting those hits and downloads of what we're meant to do next, the more I sit in that space and then take action, oh my gosh, it's so much lighter and easier and less stressful, and you can actually breathe. So, and part of that was discovered throughout the course of mastering alchemy. So,
yeah, one of the reasons that I advocate recognizing that there's another story, another set of choices, another set of skills and tools and possibilities is because your backpack is emptying. And so where you go into depression or fear or resentments, see, that's all leaving. It's not coming in, it's leaving. You are beginning to be conscious of being unconscious. You're also beginning to become conscious of being conscious. And so as this all leaves, what a lot of people will do is argue with it in what's wrong with me. And if you can recognize simply it's leaving and step over here onto this platform of, okay, I'm good. I'm going to, what does it mean to platform? I'm going to go have a nice day. Go for a walk. Notice the flowers you've never noticed before. Say hello to the rock. Hello, rock. It might say hello back to you. and then laugh at yourself. See, in that energy, everything leaves without being noticed. But in the, am I going to be okay? Do I need to worry about this? You're hedging and everything's kind of squeaking out and then stopping and yelling at you and squeaking out. That's not fun. So find a platform. Mastering Alchemy has a whole lot of free tools on the website. Take advantage of them. They're basically there to begin. That rose, for example, it's there to begin to show you some choices that allow you to find an ease on that, in that story. That's your story.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, because certainly I've noticed things coming up again, and your first reaction is, oh, why is this happening again? Or, why is this here again? And so to just have that reassurance that the reason it's showing up again is, again, what we were saying, is like you're giving an opportunity to shine a light on something that you weren't able to see when it happened previously, and then to just release it. You don't have to start playing in it and living it again.
Yeah. I love Esther Hicks's comment about, you don't go into the dark room, you don't go in and turn on the dark switch.
Right.
You turn on the light switch. And all the darkness seems to have disappeared that wasn't there in the first place. That's this space of stepping over onto this other platform of your own well-being, your own story, and recognizing, I could get angry at this, but I don't have any reason to get angry at this in real terms. And it just goes away. So new story will become you.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. And as we come to the end of our time together, I know for myself that, I was in a space of feeling, well, certainly when I joined the course of Mastering Alchemy, was feeling quite unsafe and confused and not really sure what was going on in my life, didn't like myself very much, and certainly feel a lot more calm, trusting of the path that I'm on, and trusting that I'm getting that guidance, I am being taken care of, and certainly feeling more of a sense of belonging in the world.
Yeah, and you're wearing it quite lovely.
Thank you. So just to end, is there anything else you'd like to share, and perhaps you'd like to direct people how they can connect with you and play in Mastering Alchemy for those interested?
Sure, just go on to masteringalchemy.com, and there's a ton of stuff for free. The level 1 class, I don't know what it costs. I think it's like $75. If you are really interested, I think it's like 30 hours of information, 18 hours of information, tools, skills, meditations, strategies, different concepts. If you just simply play in that and begin to be aware of those tools and never do anything else but recognize that you have choices, your life's going to be terrific, very different. It'll start to be your story. So it's meant to be a simple piece of work, a whole series of choices. It's not about money. It's just simply about play here and find yourself a new story. And I think you'll like it.
So too.
Dory, thank you for having me. I'm grateful for your time.
Thank you. Also, thank you for sharing your wonderful insights and how people can play Mastering Alchemy and learn more about conscious living. So I've been speaking with Jim South. He's international teacher, speaker, and international leader in the field of spiritual development. Thank you so much for being here, Jim. And thank you for listening to this heart-to-heart conversation brought to you by theconsciouscreationcoach.com, empowering you to create a new story of your life.